let's get to Sunday Night Football, where Detroit Lions go on the road to Kansas City and get pantsed 30-17. Really wasn't that close. Chiefs cover as 2.5-point favorites. The under hits there, 52.5. They're kind of back. JP.
Yep, my big number from this game was 52 yards. That's how many yards the Chiefs had on under center runs today. And that's something that, again, very niche, very football hipster thing to say, but the Chiefs have struggled running the ball for a large part of this season. And I think it was a lot of it was because they couldn't and didn't want to run the ball from under center. They were pretty good at it when they did, but they never actually wanted to commit to that. They had 10 carries for 52 yards under center, according to Bill Barnwell of ESPN, and they had a 70% success rate on all their under center runs, excluding all those Mahomes kneel downs at the end. So it felt like adding on to that run game that makes them more dynamic. It makes them more explosive. And you can tell that Patrick Mahomes is playing with much more comfort within the offense, knowing that he can trust his offensive line and he trusts the guys downfield. And this was a game where they kind of just poked holes in a lot of what the Lions wanted to do. You can't really play zone because they couldn't get any pressure. You can't play man because you have Rocky Sin out there and you have Arthur Mallette out there. You're losing players like minute by minute. Kirby Joseph goes out of the game for a little bit with a knee injury. And it felt like this game was for the Chiefs just to kind of reestablish themselves as an offense, especially right before they get Rashee Rice.
Yeah, the Chiefs offense, I said it early on this season, and then they lost Xavier Worthy. But I just thought that this had a chance to harken back to what we saw basically like before they traded Tyreek Hill. I thought this offense had a good opportunity to bring back that explosive element that was just missing. I mean, we talked about it a bunch. They were bottom 5 in both explosive run rate and explosive pass rate last year. Like they got by, they won a lot of games, but it was ugly more often than not. And they didn't have the firepower to really race out, to really go out and stay out ahead of even bad teams, it seemed like last year. Now they do. Now this team, I think really, and once they add Rashee Rice, it's even going to be scarier, but the Chiefs passing offense looks like prime-ish Mahomes Chiefs passing offense. And then if you get that lead, that's when Chris Jones looks better. That's when George Karlaftis looks better. And I think you saw it in this one. And now the Detroit Lions injuries along their offensive line, when you're starting Dan Skipper, that's going to be a problem. And that was a big part of what did them in here. But I think the fact that the Chiefs kind of raced out and that the Lions were seemingly in catch-up mode the whole game is just something that, one, we hadn't seen from the Lions in this offensive explosion the past few weeks. And two, that the Chiefs haven't been able to do in quite some time.
I was actually really impressed with the Chiefs linebackers in this game. Of course, yes. Leo Chenal had a really good game. They had
it had to be a Leo Chenal game. I said it had
yeah,
to be.
this was the Leo Chenal game. They from off the ball, they played him as like an edge defender. On one rep, I think it was on the JMO jet sweep in like the third quarter. They were in they had a 3-down front, but they walked up Leo Chenal as basically an edge rusher. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool because he's basically a 5th defensive lineman for him with the way that they play. And Nick Bolton is playing at a really high level against the run again. He looks like he's tackling much better. And I think that as a whole is really helping the Chiefs out a lot more. They are tackling so much better compared to the early weeks of the season. It felt like if you were trying to avoid a Chiefs tackler one-on-one, you were going to win that opportunity. And from there, it just looks like they've gotten so much more confident as a defense. The young guys are growing in the secondary. Of course, you have the Jamari Connor giving up touchdown, but I think some of the young guys are really standing out. Noel Williams, rookie, they kind of threw in there with the starters. He has played really well. He's been incredibly physical. I think he posed quite a bit of problems for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think it's like he's the Amon-Ra St. Brown stopper at all. Like, that's not what I'm saying here, but he had a really good game against Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially considering he's one of the more physical receivers in the game. So he matched the physicality there. But I was so impressed with their linebacker group today, especially against the run, because early on it looked like the Lions really wanted to hammer the Chiefs in the run game, and the Chiefs' second level really stood up to the challenge.
Yeah, this is the kind of win that I think springboards the Chiefs back into, I still think it's a flawed team. Don't get me wrong. But basically back into, hey, we deserve respect anywhere we go. If we, when they were below 500, some of the games earlier this season, that was not the case. But now with Rashee Rice coming back, I'm not sure they're going to be dogs in a lot more games this season. I really don't see that happening.
Yeah, and it's with adding Rashee Rice, you just add another element after the catch that really is going to frustrate a lot of defenses. You already have to worry about Xavier Worthy after the catch. You got to worry about Brashard Smith, who every time it feels like Brashard Smith is in the game, he's getting the ball. Like, I don't know what his target rate is when he's in the game, but it feels like every time he's in the game, he is getting the ball on some design screen. They had a rollout for him that I think Mahomes just kind of dirted, but it feels like you have another element in Brashard Smith to worry about. You have to worry about Travis Kelce, who sort of just like finds voids in coverages, and that's his role. You got to worry about Juju Smith-Schuster, who is an incredibly important role player. One of my favorite, just very niche, not niche, but one of my very favorite role players, especially on offense in the NFL with what he does. So with adding Rashee Rice to that, especially now you have Xavier Worthy healthy, everybody shines in limited roles. We talked about it earlier this season when the Chiefs were struggling. They're not going to have to give Hollywood Brown 15 targets a game now. You can see Hollywood Brown shine on the 3, 4, or in this game, I believe he had 4 targets in this game and 2 touchdowns.
That's the correct
amount.
Feels
like Hollywood Brown.
That's the correct amount.
That is the peak Hollywood Brown. You only need him running. You only need to target him 4 times. And on those 4 targets, convert 2 of those into touchdowns. The second touchdown was really cool. It was another one of their trail concepts that they run a lot. But instead of having Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown run the trail route, Travis Kelce's running the clear route. And then Hollywood Brown comes in on the shallow, and Isaiah Pacheco follows him. But what happens is 3 Lions defenders end up running with Travis Kelce, and Hollywood Brown's wide open. So I think it's just those kinds of things. You are going to see a lot more added elements to this offense with Rashee Rice back in the fold.
Yeah, I am very excited to see what it looks like once that's the case, because right now it looks good enough to just take down the Lions in a game that, I think the Lions obviously were banged up on the offensive line, but the Chiefs went out and won that game. But it's like they took that away from the Detroit Lions. They looked like the better team in that game, up and down that roster. And for Detroit, I am worried about the secondary. I'm not worried about their offense. I do think maybe we got a little inflated sense of their offense given who they played the past few weeks. Like 38 against the Ravens doesn't look as great in retrospect. 52 against the Bears, solid. And then, the 34 against the Browns, you had a return touchdown in there. You had pick almost 6 in there that gave them another touchdown. So I think their offense got a little inflated sense of itself, but this defense, they're going to have to win a lot of shootouts with the secondary as it's currently constructed. Yes, 2 safeties are great. I'm not going to Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, elite safety duo. That puts a cap on you at least. But those corners on the outside right now you're just not going to win a lot of games if people really can go and attack and have enough time to attack those corners.
And optimistically, they're not going to play. They're going to be a playoff team. You're not going to go into the playoffs with DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold, and all of basically Andy Ali McNeil also not being healthy. You're going to get all those guys back. And I think Aleem McNeil being back is going to be huge for them, because part of what Detroit struggles with, especially when all the secondary guys go down, normally that's when you want to play a little more zone, so you're not stressing your 3rd and 4th string corners and man coverage trying to chase starters for the other team, but they can't play zone because they can't get pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson because they're missing Aleem McNeil. I mean, they have, I think, Al-Qadim Muhammad as their secondary pass rusher at the moment, and that's just not going to cut it for a team that wants to go deep into the playoffs. So they especially need Aleem McNeil back, especially on the interior. But yeah, it's going to be hard to win games when Rocky Sin is playing corner extensively for you.